Well, hey, this is weird. New context for the podcast. I want to talk about some current events right now, but I also wanted to kind of give you a reason for why I am doing what I'm doing here in my car as opposed to my studio with my nice microphone. So I have been thinking about utilizing my time more efficiently. And so I thought, what better time to record a super duper quick podcast than after I go to the gym. So I just got done with the gym. I'm in the car. I'm about to head home. And so I'm going to record a really quick 10-minute podcast that I'll post with little to no editing. No editing at all, except for maybe an intro or an outro. We'll see. And then just share my thoughts about some kind of topic. So I wanted to experiment with putting out a lower quality podcast and see how that's well received, or see how well that's received. So if you enjoy this, if you're listening to the audio, hopefully the audio is not far worse than it usually is. But if you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, shoot me a comment and tell me if this is okay or if you absolutely hate it, and then I'll never do it again. But hey, there's all these protests breaking out across the country at various universities, and these things are absolutely organized by some of the most evil people imaginable. There are people who are banned from universities because of bad stuff that they've done there in the past, and they're going anyway to do these anti-Israel protests. And it's bad stuff. And our country, over the past, this year, this idea of Israel and Palestine has exploded, no pun intended. It seems like most people in America are picking sides. It's like the right is generally saying Israel's the good guys, we got to support them, they're God's chosen people after all, they can do no wrong. We have to support Israel no matter what. And then the left seems to be mostly, generally, and there are exceptions to both of these things, mostly like unequivocally saying Palestine is the bad guys, Israel are the aggressors, they went way overboard with their counterattack, and like now it's to the point of where they've proclaimed genocide, and like that's not good. They're basically like the Jews are basically the Nazis now. And so we have these people picking sides. And so one of the points that I want you to consider is that there's like a torrential rainstorm around me, so hopefully you can still hear the audio fine, or else this whole podcast is a waste of time. So we'll see. My utilizing time better will be entirely wasted this first episode, but hopefully it's fine. It's okay to not pick a side. It's okay to not pick a side. Whenever it is possible for things in this world to happen, and there are both bad guys. There can be righteous actions done by bad people, and there can be like tiny good things or good choices made in response to bad things when overall the whole situation is bad. And that's kind of how I see the war in Israel and Palestine. I think they're both doing not good things. They're both totally the bad guys in this situation. It's okay to not pick a side. It's okay to say Palestine, they shot terror attacks against Israel, and they still are. And it's also okay to say Israel should not be attempting to commit genocide against the Palestinians. It's totally okay to say that. But also, here's another point. That's over there. Now, this debate, this discussion has come over into America and into the universities and, in cities, and people are protesting. The protests, and often they're violent, like the ones that happened just over the past couple of days, and they're still happening on universities across the country. There is one side that's the bad guys there. There's absolutely one side that's the bad guys there. and it is the leftist, quote-unquote, pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel protesters. They're the bad guys. Now, that isn't to say that Israel, in their war, are the good guys or are exclusively doing righteous things. They have made some good choices. They have made predominantly bad choices, right? Palestine is right, probably. I mean, I don't know all the details, but they're right if they're like, hey, you can't murder all of our people. That's good. They're allowed to defend themselves from genocidal maniacs. They're allowed to do that. But also, at the same time, it's like, well, you're terrorists. You shouldn't, just leave each other alone. Just relax. This is a land war. Just shut up and leave everybody alone, right? But in America, that discussion has shifted into a context where there are very clearly two sides. There aren't very many violent pro-Israel or anti-Palestine protests. It seems like all of the rigmarole, all of the violence is coming from one side, and it's the left, as usual. So this is no surprise. But we are allowed to pick a side in that. They're the bad guys. Absolutely, like, they should not be doing this. There's absolutely no reason to be putting, throwing bricks through windows of buildings. Even if, I was listening to a podcast today, and the host was saying, like, it's very brave to stand up against these lightning. It's very brave to stand up against these protests. But also, I want you to consider how evil this building is. Like, who cares? Yeah, okay, everything's bad, right? Universities are evil, okay? But that doesn't mean, and this podcaster wasn't saying this, but that kind of would have been the conclusion that a normal person would have made. That, like, oh, okay, well, we shouldn't be defending these buildings in the first place. Like, if you have an opportunity to do something good, or rather, if you have, even better, look, if you have the opportunity to prevent evil, you have to. A courageous person does what they can to prevent evil from happening. Without even considering the consequences, without doing the math. So if somebody's like, well, okay, let me make a chart that graphs exactly how much good this building has contributed to versus how much evil this building has contributed to. Who cares? Like, if you're a Christian in a secular university that hates God, like, that's okay. You're allowed to make that decision and benefit from it and, like, keep your guard up. And I know, a lot of the Christian kids there, especially Rory Wilson, Indy Wilson's son, he knows these things. And he went to defend that building from these maniacs anyway. And it was courageous. And, he was all over the news for it, which is awesome. Like, yet again, more quote-unquote Christian LARPing, pretending to be faithful, is proven to be actually real faithfulness. So what Rory did was super brave. It was awesome. But it doesn't matter how much evil a building has done. If you have an opportunity to prevent some kind of evil act, then, that might very well be an awesome thing for you to do. But here's another consideration. I think what is happening with a lot of people is we understand that these are two different contexts. There's this war happening and people have these opinions here, and there's not really a clear good guy, bad guy over there. There's, it depends on kind of what you're looking at. But here, there are very clear bad guys. But still, I think a lot of people are looking at this situation here in America, and they're like, okay, the pro-Palestinian protesters are obviously the bad guys here in our context. Therefore, and this is a fallacious argument, this does not follow, they say, therefore, over there, Israel must be the good guys. Because the Palestinian people, because the people on the Palestinians' side here in America are the bad guys, therefore over there, Israel must be the good guys. Because they're God's chosen people after all. And I think that is a fallacious argument. That's not a good way to go. Like, the pro-Palestinian people here are awful, therefore we should support Israel. No, not at all. It's not, if you argued that we should not have supported Ukraine, and to this day we're still, our country is still sending money to Ukraine. We should also not, if it's like wars outside of our country that have nothing to do with us or none of our business, well then we also shouldn't, we should be consistent and say the same thing about Israel and Palestine, obviously. So don't let the clear black and white scenario here impact what we believe about a very gray scenario. I mean, it is black and white. It's like black and black. They're both bad. A very clear black and black scenario over there on the opposite side of the planet that has nothing to do with us whatsoever. The problem, the thing that is causing all of this, is people getting riled up over something that is absolutely none of their business. And when we say, okay, well, this is our business now, I'm going to also have opinions on something that is none of my business, you're doing exactly what they're doing. It's none of your business. What is your business is not the theological beliefs of the people who are smashing windows. The problem is that they are smashing windows. It is evil and wrong to do what they're doing, regardless of the context. So that is what we should be focusing on. It doesn't matter if they're pro-Israel or pro-Palestine or whatever. Like, if these people were on the right, now people on the right don't protest like absolute maniacs like this. But anyway, hypothetically, if the universe were flipped upside down and people on the right were the ones doing all of the violent protests for the past 10 years, it still would not be okay. It doesn't matter the reason behind what you're doing. It matters the thing you're doing itself. And the thing they're doing is evil. And so we should, it doesn't matter the Israel-Palestine thing. It matters that these people are destroying private property. It matters that these people are preventing students from going to school. The students are not the bad guys. The Jewish students are not the bad guys. This is all just a horrible, absolute mess. And there are very clear bad guys in this situation. We shouldn't let that impact our beliefs on other things that are happening in the world that have nothing to do with us. And yeah, so I guess we'll see where this goes. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you enjoyed this, let me know, and then I'll do more. And if not, I guess I'll stop forever. And like and subscribe if you also enjoyed it. And I will catch you next time, maybe in my studio again. All right, God bless.